Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to an episode of Canucks Conversation brought to you by Bet365. Happy opening day, everyone. I was going to go put on a Mariners jersey, but you know what I really don't like, Harmon? And the only time I will do this is if I go to the game. I will not wear a hat, like a Mariners hat, and a jersey at the same time. I would do that at the game only, is what I'm trying to say.
I think you're the only one listening to this pod that cares about it being opening day. No offense, squad.
You're wrong. Chat, help me out here. People care. People absolutely care.
What's the over-under on at least 80% of the chat not caring that it's opening day?
That's like 80%. I don't know. I'd say there's a good chance of that. I'd say there's a good chance. Jacob cares though, and Jacob.
It's not like there was a Canucks game last night, right?
Well, there was, and then we're gonna talk about it. But I'm excited about opening day. Excuse me. Sorry, Harm. I didn't realize. Yeah, and Stuart Hunter says he's right, and he's talking about me. I'm sure. So let's get to this Canucks game. Let's break it all down. Harmon, last night was a good example of why I said after the Devils game that I really liked what I saw from Thatcher Demko. And he didn't by any means steal them that game. You made a good point that they were the better team in that game. I thought last night was more of a toss-up. And certainly in the first period, the saves that Demko made, especially the one off Horvat early in that game, that is what keeps a team in the fight. How different is that game if those rush chances that the Canucks gave up go in and nobody would have sat there and said, oh, well, that's Demko's fault. Those are ones, oh, he had no chance, blah, 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 whatever excuses for goaltenders that we all make. He makes the save and it gives the Canucks momentum. It gives a team that has had plenty of adversity thrown at them, the latest of which is losing Pettersson, losing Höglander. It gives the team jump and it gives them the will to continue playing their game and fight back. Look, a lot of these players are running on fumes right now, but this is the kind of team and the kind of effort that makes you root for guys, that you're just like, you want to see these guys make the playoffs because of how high their given F level is right now.
Yeah, it gives you a margin for error with slow starts, or not even starts necessarily, but stretches of the game where maybe you aren't able to execute and are stuck defending for a long time. Now, ideally, you don't want to end up in a scenario where you're allowing the other team to take control of games. But given how undermanned the Canucks are right now, there are going to be phases of the game where the opposition is really taking it to you. And even going back to last season, the dream campaign for the Canucks, they would have starts where on the shot counter, they were a little bit sluggish. They weren't on point right away. Demko would make a few phenomenal saves early, and then by the end of the period, the Canucks would catch up and would be up 1 or 2-0 by the end of the first period. So this isn't a new thing as far as what Thatcher Demko is able to do for this team. He's always had the talent to do this. It's just always been about, can he stay healthy? And it's remarkable to me with Demko how ordinarily when the other team is setting up chances off the cycle and they're making sort of passes into slot, how calm and poised he looks as far as his anticipation and positioning. He makes tough saves look really easy.
Yep.
So he's got that sort of calm side of his game, but then he also has that level where he can make those desperation stops off the rush where it's backdoor. He has to explode off one post to the other, east-west. The combination of that as a goaltender is so unique, is so rare, and it makes it really difficult for teams to beat him. And over the last 2 games, it's been especially noticeable how you're never going to score trying to take advantage of the bottom half of the net, even if it's an east-west play. Demko just he had 2 or 3 of those saves in the Islanders game. He is so good at taking the bottom half of the net away, even if it's an east-west play where you get the goaltender moving and you think you've got an opportunity to bury it. You've got to find a way to elevate it as high as you can on him, which is difficult when you're as an attacker that close to the net.
Absolutely. And let's also make the point of nobody was really sure about what it would look like when Demko came back. We didn't know if there was going to be a ramp up period. There really hasn't been. And I don't know if you caught this post game, and I wish we had the audio. It's my bad for not having it. Post game, I think he was talking to Murph. Demko said, like, yeah, I'm feeling it in the legs right now. And that's a good way to put what I was trying to say the other day. When Hughes says he's not at 100%, or when Demko's not at 100%, like what he's saying and what's being said there isn't like, oh yeah, his groin still hurts. It's he's not ramped up to that game pace where your conditioning's at the level you need to be at. That was what I was trying to say on the last show that we did. Demko basically said that and made that clear. Like, that's what it means when a goalie says in that context that he's not at 100%. He doesn't have the legs yet. So extended zone time, I'm feeling for him. I'm really, really feeling for him right now. But like I said, it doesn't look like there's much rust on Thatcher Demko right now. And that's a big part of this story, is that he's just come back and he's immediately looked like an elite goaltender again.
Yeah, the other really impressive part about that win, outside of just Demko's performance, which was dominant, but I'd argue he didn't have to necessarily steal it, right? I don't look at that as Demko stole that win, a game where the Canucks had no business being in it. To me, it was fairly even when it came to the quality of shots and chances that both sides had. Demko is obviously far better than Sorokin, who let in 1 or 2 goals that he probably would have wanted back. The goaltending discrepancy was massive. But what I liked about the Canucks was, so in the first period, yeah, they were sleepy. And the biggest issue I noticed was, okay, they were winning pucks back on the forecheck and winning battles down low, but they weren't able to make that next play. Right, a lot of their low to high passes back to the point, or when forwards would recover it deep, and they're even trying to attempt passes into the slot, they weren't getting anywhere. They were turning it over immediately, and so the Canucks couldn't set up shop there. And off those turnovers, the Isles were then able to turn Vancouver's neutral zone into a highway and just come in with speed, a lot of controlled entries. But in the second half of the game, I really started to see the Canucks as a team control play really well, generate offensive chances, start to improve the environment defensively in front of Demko. And the most impressive part was they did it on a night when Quinn Hughes looked ordinary. Quinn Hughes looked fatigued. He's been Superman. I mean, at the start of this road trip, the performance he had against the Rangers was probably the best performance I've seen this season from an NHL defenseman in a losing effort. And then he plays over 31 minutes against the Devils, dominates from start to finish to help the Canucks win that game. Understandably, given his workload and the injuries he's playing through, he looked tired. And him and Hronek were uncharacteristically struggling on breakouts. They were sort of losing battles down low. They were getting caved in at times. Not saying Quinn was playing bad because he still had that great shot pass to Kiefer Sherwood, which opened the scoring for the Canucks. But Quinn also had the giveaway that led to Sezika's shorthanded goal. And on the night, the Canucks were outshot and outchanced by, a pretty decisive margin with Quinn on the ice. So when you're this undermanned, right, you're without Pettersson, you're without Hedel, you're without Höglander, and you have an ordinary Quinn Hughes performance, the fact that the Canucks still found a way to beat an Islanders team that is desperate for points and is also in the thick of the playoff race out in the East is extremely impressive to me. And I think it highlights an overall trend where the rest of the blue line really stepped up. And I've got the data for the bottom 4 results before and after the series of trades and call-ups. And man, it is so stark. But last night specifically, to see the Pettersson and Myers pair, when they were on the ice, the Canucks reached double-digit scoring chances when that pair was on the ice, which is like unheard of in the first half of the season. That, when Quinn Hughes is off the ice, you can generate double-digit scoring chances at 5-on-5. Forbert had the game winner. DPD looked solid in returning to the lineup. So the rest of the blue line really stepped up, and also to get depth contributions up front as well from guys like Blueger and Raty. Really gutsy team effort.
And a 3-point night for Kiefer Sherwood. This guy deserves all the flowers in the world. I can't think of a better first season that you could have for a player. I'm so happy for Kiefer Sherwood to come in the way he has and make the impact that he has. Again, the hits record was like a fun thing that we were all kind of watching at the start of the year. Now he's broken it. And ultimately we can say with 10 games, 11 games remaining, this guy hasn't changed his game at all. And that's what's so that I admire so much about him. He's been so steady for a bottom 6 contributor. And the fact he's here for 2 years, is great. He is going to get a pretty hefty raise, but we don't have to worry about that until the end of next season. I did want to make sure we gave Kiefer Sherwood his flowers as well. Now, Ratu, do you want to rescind what you said about him never being able to be PS Suitor?
No.
You sure?
I thought it was a great performance, and it's the type of game that makes me optimistic he could be a full-time NHL contributor next year. But the PS Suitor bar is high. Like, let's not forget, Suitor's on like a 25 goal pace, is a stud on the PK, and has outstanding defensive metrics. That's an awfully high bar.
Well, I look at it this way, Harb. He might not be PS Suitor next year, but like Ratu, here's my take on Ratu, Harm. I've given up on this idea that he's gonna figure out skating, and that as soon as he figures out his skating, he's gonna be great. No, he's just not going to. He's not gonna figure it out. He's just gonna develop his hockey IQ even more, and he's gonna get advice from PS Suitor while he still can on how PS Suitor, who also isn't a very good skater, made it work. That's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Ratu's not figuring out his skating, but he is gonna figure out how to stick at the NHL level.
Sure, but in all seriousness, it was a strong performance from him, and not just the goal and that loud highlight type of moment that grabs your attention. But what I've wanted to see from Ratu is, we know he's fantastic on draws, but on a shift by shift basis, can he make a consistent impact? And I'm not even talking about always being involved in creating scoring chances or necessarily doing a lot of loud, exciting things. I'm talking as simple as he's got a big body, win battles down low, help your line possess the puck a little bit more, and that was a key to the 2 goals that he was on the ice for. I believe the first one, he's first man in on the forecheck. He's able to leverage that heft he has, the strength he has down low to win the battle, help the Canucks set up shop in the offensive zone, and then I believe it was on his own goal, he's able to extend the offensive zone possession, and again, help the Canucks spend time in the attacking end. It's that type of shift by shift impact that is going to allow him to be a fixture potentially in the bottom 6 next year, whether it's at center, whether it's on the wing. It's the consistent shift by shift impact that we finally saw. Because here's the thing, like, Ratu's shown at a baseline he can hang.
Yeah,
like, we know he's fine. He's not going to hurt you. He's not a liability. It's just always been, but okay, can he move the needle in a decisively positive direction outside of just the faceoffs? And that's why I was really encouraging to see his performance last night.
9Ed M in the chat said this. He said, "I don't want to be a hater, but is the Nils Amon project over yet? Max Sasson's on an absolute heater down in Abbotsford. Bring me Max Sasson. Bring me him now. I really want to see Max Sasson get a call up here." And is the Nils Amon project over yet, Harm? Because I agree with this commenter.
I'll be honest, I don't think that Sasson is that much of an upgrade on Oman. I'll be honest, I think both of them are ideally not among your top 12 forwards.
That's fair. I think
I will say I think Oman, it's interesting because he's gotten faster. Like, it feels like every year he becomes quicker.
Really?
Yeah, no, seriously. He's looked quick at times. That's the only like positive, like wow, he kind of, like, you notice him is up and down the ice, and he's had a couple of chances, but you're right. He's not great. Ideally, he's not in your NHL lineup on a full-time basis. And honestly, the same thing with Sasson. I know Sasson showed flashes at times with his speed and some of the cutbacks he had, the patience, but quietly, the Canucks didn't control play very well during his even strength shifts this year. I'm going to pull up now just for reference, because I agree, by the eye test, Sasson looks better than Oman, but looking at the data, they're both just kind of meh.
You know what I'm doing right now? You made me pull up Nils Amon's NHL Edge page to try to figure out if there's anything to this idea that he's gotten faster every year, because I just don't see it.
Really? I think he's gotten faster, but I'll be honest. You know what? I will say, now that I'm thinking about it more, Sasson's probably slightly better than Oman. I won't push back against anybody that is saying, "Oh, I'd rather see Sasson than Oman." But also, like, who cares?
Exactly. According to NHL Edge, I do have to share with you since I said I was looking it up. According to NHL Edge, Nils Amon has gotten slower every year that he's been
But
in the NHL.
he's played fewer games. You got to remember, these are raw totals.
I'm not looking at speed bursts over 20. I'm only looking at top speed.
But that's the thing. Top speed can be deceiving. That's not the only thing to look at.
Is there a way to do this like per 60? You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'd like to.
I don't know. I don't think there's a quick way to do it.
Okay. Oh, no. Okay. Sorry. Excuse me. Before I disrespect you and Nils Amon, his top skating speed, is the same this year as it was last year. All right. That's enough Nils Amon research. His highest skating speed came in 22-23, but he also, as you said, played the most games in 22-23. Okay. Anyways,
how did we end up talking about Nils Amon for this?
I don't know, but in 2022-23, he was in the 87th percentile for speed bursts over 20 miles per hour. You may be cooking here, Harm. You may be cooking here.
He's got NHL level skating ability, but that's about it.
Okay. Yeah, the Nils Amon conversation. Okay, anything else you want to get to? I want to close out with some Demko talk. He's the subject of our poll question, then we're going to get to Family Feud.
I want to expand on the point I made about the Canucks improve 5-on-5 play and non-Quinn Hughes minutes. Here are the numbers. It's pretty jarring. So before February 1st, the Canucks shot differential was minus 149. They controlled 42.7% of scoring chances and had a minus 21 goal differential. So in other words, they were basically the San Jose Sharks or Chicago Blackhawks when Quinn Hughes was on the bench. But since February 1st, which is when Marcus Pettersson was acquired, Victor Mancini, it's around the same time that DPD got called up. Vinny Desharnais obviously got traded away as well. Noah Juleson hasn't been in the lineup lately because of injury. All of those changes have added up to pretty significant improvements over the last 21 games. So since Feb 1, the shot differential is basically even. It's only minus 6. They have controlled a positive share of scoring chances, 50.5%. And they have a +1 goal differential in non-Quinn Hughes minutes. So they're actually winning their non-Hughes minutes by a slight margin right now, which is pretty remarkable considering, again, they were basically the Chicago Blackhawks or San Jose Sharks for the first half of the season whenever their second or third pair was on the ice.
That's the thing is, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get into this again. Talkett's going to come up later in the show. We're going to talk about him and anyone else because, hey, if you haven't heard, John Tortorella was fired today. From the Philadelphia Flyers in pretty bizarre circumstances, but we're going to get to it anyone else and we'll talk about Rick Tocchet. But I guess quickly, just this idea that like, I don't know, maybe it's not a Tocchet thing, but those numbers don't lie, Harm. And those numbers also line up perfectly with the Canucks getting better defensemen. Like when half the season was Vinny Desharnais and Noah Juleson, who by the way played on the same pair for some games, like, it's hard to take those results and be like, this is on the coach or this is on the goalies or whatever. So anyways, Ed asked you this, Harm. He said, so Harm is saying Miller was the problem, right?
That's not what I said.
Good observation, Ed. Good observation. Okay. Left Yellow Round said, hats off to Forbert, most improved Canuck since the start of the season for the Canucks. I am very vocal about Derek Forbert being my pick for unsung hero, but my other take on Derek Forbert is that he wasn't that bad earlier in the year.
Yeah,
he was just playing with Vinny Desharnais or Noah Juleson. That's basically my Derek Forbert take. His penalty killing has been good all year. He also missed a good chunk of the season. That's what people don't forget. He's unfairly looped in with those guys because he played with those guys, and when the defense sucked, he was a part of it. But it did not suck because of Derek Forbert, as I think we're finding out right now. So, I'm a big fan of Derek Forbert.
Myers has also gotten a lot better. It's not just the external additions as well, the call-ups, the impact that Mancini and both Petterssons have had since arriving. Myers, for the first, whatever you want to call it, 6 weeks of the season, when he and Carson Soucy were paired together, they struggled together. And Soucy was the main problem there. He was the one making mistakes on a more frequent basis. But Myers was looped in on that as well. And he was having a tough time controlling play and defending as well. Whereas since he got separated from Soucy, Myers has been really solid for the last few months.
Really good point. Really good point. Do you have anything else you want to say on defense? Last thing I would say, Derek Forbert rush goal last night. Thanks for coming out. Oh my goodness, what a goal. One Ilya Sorokin certainly wanted back, and what a short leash. I don't know. I don't like Patrick Waugh. I know it's maybe not a hot take. I don't like him as a coach. Like if you're gonna put your goalie out for the third period, and the leash was that short, don't put him out for the third period. I just think that I don't know. Like how would Waugh have liked that if he was the player? And I mean,
probably
Patrick
for
Waugh
fatigue
doesn't give up
purposes,
goals.
because Varlamov's been out for a really long time. Sorokin's workload is getting up there. I think as soon as Waugh felt like, okay, there's no chance of us getting back into this game, his
Sure.
mindset was more, I want to get Sorokin some rest.
Sure, that's actually a fair way to look at it. I still don't like Patrick Waugh, but that's actually a good explanation of it. Okay, poll question. You get to go for that?
Yep.
All right, let's get to our poll question, which is brought to you by Pacific Toyota Dealers, who want to tell you about the 100% electric Toyota BZ4X. An SUV packed with plenty of space, the BZ4X can handle any terrain and can take you from the city to the slopes. Plus, if you're driving a BZ4X, you get access to HOV lanes, even if you're driving alone. When you choose the BZ4X, you can get up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives, and now you can finance the 2025 BZ4X from 3.29% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Our poll question is about Thatcher Demko. He has been a catalyst for the Canucks, but our question today is how many of the Canucks' final 10 games should Thatcher Demko start? We gave the options of 9 to 10, 7 to 8, 5 to 6, or under 5. And Harmon, most people landing in the 7 to 8 range with 48.8% of the vote. I think that's probably accurate. He's been the catalyst for this team. He's been, I think, the driving force behind their success. And look, I know we maybe didn't steal the game, but I do think it is something we can't really understate how much better the team feels with him in net making those saves early in the game. Again, against New York, the Islanders, that is, on Wednesday night, making those saves in the first period, like that gives the team juice to go out and do things on the other end of the ice. If those goals go in, like that could be the season. And it sounds dramatic, but it could be. Like, I'm not saying the players are looking for an excuse to quit, but they know the odds are stacked against them already. And if they're down in a game, it becomes harder. Whether you like it or not, it becomes harder for guys to, go the extra mile like this team is right now. So I'm going to say Demko starts more, but I also did want to highlight the fact that with getting some more rest, and keep in mind, he hasn't even been backing up these past 2 games, Kevin Lankinen should bounce back and play more like the goalie that we saw earlier in the year when he was at his best.
Yeah, I think 7 to 8 is the right sweet spot where he's feeling it. So you want to give him a chance to build rhythm. Goaltenders, when they're performing well, love to play. They want to play every night. Of course, with Demko's injury history, the fact that he probably has pushed it a little bit to get back this soon. Got to be mindful of his workload, especially if they're going to be games like the last 2 where he's having to make east-west saves where he's exploding from one post to the other. That's hard on the body. It isn't just the volume of games. It's what's the quality chances he's facing and how much work it's putting on his lower body. So have to be mindful of his fatigue, his body, and that's why you're definitely not going to push it into the 9 to 10 game range. But the way he's rolling right now, you want him out there. He's on a roll, and I'm also curious where exactly Lankinen is at in terms of his health, how healthy he feels, because not backing up the last 2 games, yeah, it'll help his rest. But even with the way Tocchet was speaking about Lankinen after the Rangers game, it sounds like Lankinen might be a little bit nicked up, a little bit banged up. So when does he get to a point where he's 100% healthy and you feel very confident that he can get back to being the goaltender that he is when he's fresh? That's going to be influential in how often they roll Demko out over these upcoming games as well.
Good stuff. Yeah, we haven't got a Lankinen update. That'll be interesting to get. Let's play the feud. Let's do it. Let's get to it.
All right, everyone. It's time for another edition of Canucks Conversation Family Feud. You guys are on a big winning streak, if I remember correctly, at one point this season, you guys were like, what was it, like 4-9, and now you're 16-10. Am I right with that? It was something like it might have been 4-8.
Something, yeah, something like that.
Or sorry, yeah, you guys are now 15-10, looking to go to 16-10. A little bit of an easier one this week. A little bit of an easier one, but you'll still need to hit some number ones to have a chance at reaching 200. I'll remind you again of your rules, and to anyone listening for the first time, David Quadrelli is going to go first. He's going to have 20 seconds on the clock. 25? I don't even know how many seconds.
It doesn't matter. Like we're quick. That's all that matters.
Yes. And I realized, yeah, it is 25, that I didn't even have your time into the back end here. Sorry, everyone. A little bit disorganized. I'll get that fixed. There we go. Quads will have 25 seconds on the clock. If you can't think of an answer, say pass. We'll come back to it at the end. David Quadrelli, are you ready to go?
Absolutely.
All right, your time will begin when I finish reading this first question. Rounded to the nearest 5, how many goals will Brock Besser score next season?
30.
Name someone who played for both the Canucks and Islanders.
Bo Horvat.
Name a former Canuck who became an NHL coach.
Pat Quinn.
Which NHL team has the best primary logo?
Montreal Canadiens.
Name a Canucks draft bust from the 21st century.
Jake Virtanen.
All right, good work. I'll tally up your score. You can flag Harmon down, and we'll see what he needs to do in order to reach 200.
He's coming. He's coming.
Okay, how'd it go?
Very well, I think. I think that's a W week. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not just saying that. Like I'm gonna sit here and say, oh, I got 200 points, but I think I did well.
Well, Jacob tallies it up. Chester Mink coming through with the clutch tag. He tagged both of us in a tweet from Hamalytics, who said that Nils Aman is among Canucks forwards second in 18 mile per hour bursts per 60 and fourth in 20 mile per hour bursts per 60. So he is one of their fastest forwards.
I love it. That's amazing. I can't believe someone figured that out. Show to Chester. That's awesome.
Quads, you got 109 points. I'm pretty sure I remember who your last response was, right? It was, I can just tell by looking at your face that it was who I thought it was. Okay. So 109 points, Harm. That means you need 91 points. You're going to have 30 seconds on the clock. Your time will begin when I finish reading the first question. If you can't think of a response, say pass. We'll come back to it at the end. And if you give one of Quad's responses, you'll hear the buzzer. And I will ask you to try again. Harmon Dahl, are you ready to go?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
Rounded to the nearest 5, how many goals will Brock Besser score next season?
30.
Try again.
25.
Name someone who played for both the Canucks and Islanders.
Bo Horvat.
Try again.
Ratu.
Name a former Canuck player who became an NHL coach.
Alex Burrows.
Which NHL team has the best primary logo?
Red Wings.
Name a Canuck draft bust from the 21st century.
Virtanen.
Try again.
Ulevi.
Oh,
Love
yeah. That's it. Jacob, you don't have to count it. It's all good. Play the music.
No, we're going to count it. It's going to be close, but I think you guys won. We'll go through
I think we got that one.
I think so, too.
Harmon clutched up with a couple of buzzes and managed to pick up on both of those, managed to pick up the number 2 answer. So that's huge. Oh, actually, no, sorry. Number 2 answer on one, number 3 on the other. But we'll go through it here. Yeah, so rounded to the nearest 5, how many goals will Brock Besser score next season? 30 was the number 1 answer with 39 points. 25 was the number 2 answer with 23 points. Someone who played for both the Islanders and the Canucks. Horvat, number 1 answer. Raty was the number 3 answer with only 8 points. Horvat had 30. Roberto Luongo was the number 2 answer.
Yeah. Wow.
Trevor Linden was the number 4 answer behind Raty.
We had BJ McLennan in the chat. Huge miss on Trevor Linden there. Ratu got more votes than Trevor Linden.
Yeah, Linden was a fun one. Bertuzzi is on there as well. Michael Grabner, Jarl Halak, Adrian Aucoin. There was a lot of really good names on there.
Nice. So what are we at? Are we
So you are up to 140 with 3 questions to go.
Oh,
Okay.
easy. Awesome. 300
Former
points.
Canuck player who became a coach. Quads, you said Pat Quinn. That was the number 3 answer. Harm, Alex Burrows was the number 1 answer.
Okay, I wasn't sure how many votes he was going to get.
Manny
that's awesome.
Malhotra was the number 2 answer. Remember, he was an assistant coach with the Leafs for a couple of years before going to the Abbey Canucks. Mark Crawford on that list as well. Nolan Baumgartner. So yeah, some good names in there. You guys managed to get a couple of the top ones. All right, you only need 35 points left. Which NHL team has the best primary logo? Quads, you said the Habs. Only 5 points for the Habs.
Oh,
They were
that's
tied
just a bad take.
tied
Bad
for
take.
fifth. Tied
Bad
for
take.
fifth with the San Jose Sharks. Harm, the Red Wings were the number 3 answer. 11 points there. It's not true, but the number 1 answer is the Vancouver Canucks. Canucks fans are going
Come
to say
on.
Canucks.
Let's be a little objective here, folks. Come on now. Best logo? Which one? What are you talking about? Okay.
I mean, I did say primary logo. If you want to say like the skate logo, that's an alternate logo. That doesn't count for this.
Yeah.
The number 2 answer was the Minnesota Wild.
That's a little surprising.
And the number 4 answer, which actually would be my pick, even as a Habs fan, was the Seattle Kraken. I love the Kraken logo. It's so good.
No.
It is so good. The S with the red eye. It is awesome. All right, you guys need 24 points. The final question: name a Canucks draft bust from the 21st century.
Easy.
Quads, you said Jake Virtanen, and that was only 14 points. He was only the number 3 answer.
Wow.
So you guys need 24. I can tell you right now, the number 1 answer gets 26 points.
It's got to be Ulevi. If it's not Ulevi, I quit everything.
For the second week in a row, you guys squeak one out. Oli Ulevi was the number 1 answer. You guys win with 202. What was it last week? Like 203 or 204?
It was close. Yeah, it was real close.
We're on a PDO bender.
That's right. That's right. Honestly,
Patrick White was the number 3 answer, by the way. I did want to insinuate people try and pick guys from the 2000s rather than, recent Benning years. But, and that's where you got Patrick White coming up. I gave them a whole list of like all the Canucks draft picks all time. So people were, as they're scrolling down, they'd see the 2000s before they get to the 2010s. So I tried to fool you guys. Didn't work. You guys are good. You guys are putting up playoff numbers here. You're going to make the Family Feud playoffs.
PDO bender, as Tarman said.
PDO bender.
All right, good stuff. Let's get to anyone else, shall we? Let's move on. Let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you by our friends over at Greta Bar YVR, the home of our electric watch parties. Greta's a great spot for all games, home and away. Conveniently located just minutes from the arena. Make Greta your pre, post, or main spot to chill next time you're downtown with drinks, the iconic street food menu, and of course the arcade games. Head on down to Greta today. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Jacob, am I allowed to announce the April 10th watch party now?
Yes, you are. It's up on screen.
Excellent.
You're good to go. We posted it on social earlier today. It's all confirmed.
Vancouver versus Colorado on April 10th. It is a 6 p.m. start, which I love. I love those games. Make sure you come on down. We had a great turnout at the last one, and we want to see more people out for this one as well. Vancouver versus Colorado. It's going to be a good one, folks. It's going to be a great game. And who knows what's going to be happening at that time of year. I know for sure, though, we are going to have fun regardless of where the Canucks are in the standings. But they're battling. They're battling right now. So come on down. Buy your tickets, nationgear.ca. It's in support of Kids Sport Vancouver. Awesome. Must be nice plus. I should also say that. Okay. Anyone else? The news of the day, Harm, I talked about it. John Tortorella fired by the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, for those that missed it, after the 7-2 loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs, Tortorella basically came out and said, I don't want to coach this team anymore. It was a really bizarre-ish quote, but there was different ways to read what Tortorella said. I'm going to pull up the direct quote, but what did you think of that whole, I guess, debacle?
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to interpret it either. I think the direct quote sounded worse than it was probably intended. I think the point Torts was trying to make was it seems like the Flyers, especially after trading away all their guys, I believe they have the worst record in the NHL since Jan 28. It sort of feels like the team has given up. And I think the point he was trying to make was put yourself in coach's shoes. If it feels like the group isn't receiving your message and that they've kind of given up on the season, well, then as a coach, no matter how hard you try to come up with new innovative solutions, like the message isn't going to get received at some point. I think that's the point he was trying to make, rather than his unwillingness to learn and evolve and adapt. But there are multiple ways people could have perceived that.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the direct quote. This is what he said. When you're in this type of situation, you're losing all the time and there is nothing at the end of the tunnel for you, there's certainly going to be some frustration. This falls on me. I'm not really interested in learning how to coach in this type of season where we're at right now. I have to do a better job. So this falls on me getting the team prepared to play the proper way until we get to the end. Obviously, the big part of that quote is I'm not really interested in learning how to coach in this type of season where we're at right now. And I took that as him basically saying, I want to coach a winning team, and this is a rebuilding team. This team traded Morgan Frost, they traded Joel Farabee, and didn't do anything to supplement it. And that was for sure the right move from the Flyers. Like, I'm not sitting here saying they shouldn't have done that, but from Tort's perspective, the way I took it was just that, yeah, like, doesn't sound like a very fun situation. And like you said, Harm, it seems like the players have given up, and why wouldn't they?
Yeah, Torts is also one of those coaches that has a shelf life. He's really effective at helping underdog teams like the Columbus Blue Jackets, and even at the start of his tenure in Philadelphia, of helping them band together, getting full buy-in, and those teams compete harder than anybody in the NHL. I mean, Torts, during the start of his Flyers tenure, that team should have been tanking, should have been near the bottom of the standings every year. They've had awful goaltending while he's been there, and yet they've been competitive year in and year out until this season. So in my mind, Torts squeezed the most he could have out of the Flyers, and now they're just at a point where at a certain point, that all-out max effort style, the abrasive voice, the effect sort of wears off and doesn't resonate the same way.
Yep, I think you're right. And we say it every year, right? Like, the John Tortorella coach teams are so good in October. They're usually in a playoff spot by November, and then it kind of falls off because they're ready to go. They start the season and they work really hard, but like you said, there's a shelf life on that. So obviously everybody's making connections with Rick Tocchet and the Canucks. I've thought about this a lot, Harm. I think the only thing this does is, obviously Tocchet is very, very well liked in Philadelphia. I wonder about the fit. Like, I look at it and say, I'm not sure what would be super appealing of that situation for Rick Tocchet to go coach. I'm not saying this because, the Canucks are the most appealing situation. I'm saying Tocchet's like the only UFA coach in, there's no such thing, but you know what I mean, right? Like, the only lame duck coach right now, and he's going to have his pick. Like, there's going to be more firings coming this offseason. He's going to have some situations to pick from. And I don't know if the Flyers are going to be the best one. Even if he doesn't re-sign with the Canucks, I just don't know that the Flyers are going to be a situation that Tocchet looks at and says, that's a team I want to coach. Other than, I'm sure he loves the area and the city loves him. I don't know. That was my first thought.
I don't love the talent on that roster. We talk about the Canucks center situation quite often in the wake of the JT Miller trade. Flyers center situation is even worse. You've got Sean Couturier, whose body was breaking down a few years ago. He missed 2 full years because of his back ailments. He's not really a top 6 centerman anymore. He's getting up there in age, and they got Noah Cates to sort of lean on. They so desperately need high-end top 6 centers. Outside of Konechny and Michkov, and maybe Tippett, they overall don't have enough offensive punch in their top 6. Their blue line is okay, but it's not spectacular, and their goaltending is garbage, quite frankly. So yep. I look at the Flyers, and on paper, they are a team that should be bottom 10 in the NHL at this juncture. I don't see any immediate game changers in their prospect pool who are going to come in and, like, you don't have another Michkov in your system who's going to help transform your team, and I expect the Flyers to still be bad for quite a while. So if I was Rick Tocchet, that situation wouldn't honestly appeal to me a lot. But what it does do is it, options give you leverage, right? So even if you may not be interested in necessarily going there, it means that if you're negotiating an extension with the Canucks, you can probably squeeze out more money.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way I look at it too. It's just it is going to be more leverage, not so much a situation where it's like, oh, that's a slam dunk. Of course, he's gonna go coach that team.
The Canucks situation is better, and we've shared our skepticism on this podcast around how can you actually turn this team into a Stanley Cup contender within the next year or two, but like it's not close between the Canucks and the Flyers. The Canucks are in a significantly better position, even if it's an imperfect one.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Did you have anything that you wanted to get to? I have a few things from the chat that I want to bring up, but anything you wanted to say?
No, let's go to the chat.
Okay, let's do it. This one from Ron Grant. And honestly, I don't know the answer. I think the answer is no, but if you know the answer, let me know. Does Willander count as one of the 4 call-ups after the trade deadline? I don't think I think the answer is no. Now, what happened with Tom Willander today? I was getting a bunch of texts, but I was also trying to watch baseball and write an article at the same time.
They won 8-3, but it was just like a wild third period. I didn't get a chance to watch it either. But yeah, apparently Dave Hall was tweeting about it, how it was just a crazy third period. I'm pulling up the box score now. Yeah, so it was tied 3-3 going into the third. And actually, like, at one point it was Ohio State was up. Let's see here. Yeah, Ohio State was up 2-1 in the second period, like halfway through the game. And then Boston University rattled off a couple goals, tied it up at 3 going into the third, and then scored 5 goals in the third period to win 8-3. So looking at it here, Canuck prospect Aiden Celebrini had one of those goals, or sorry, that was a penalty. It looked like there was a bunch of penalties in the third period as well. So there's probably something that is worth going back to take a look at based on this box score.
Yeah, Reg M said BU only had 1 shot in the first period. Tyson 3 goals in 42 seconds of the second period.
Yeah, and Celebrini actually did have a third period goal as well. Willander had a few assists, it looks like, or at least 1 assist. So yeah, that's probably one to watch on demand a little later.
All right. Roscraft, do you think the improved defense core could lead to less work for Demko and being healthier? I had this thought, Harm. I've had this thought for a while. And really, who wouldn't have had this thought when you watched what Thatcher Demko used to have to do when this team was like the prime of OEL in Vancouver, right? Where it was OEL Myers and then nothing after that. Like, and I mean, Quinn Hughes was here, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Where that was the pinnacle of watching a goaltender do way more than he had to. And I obviously had the thought at the time of, man, if they could just play better, you would think that it would lead to him staying healthier more. And I have that thought.
I disagree. And the reason I say that is the Canucks defensive environment last year was elite. And he still ran into injury troubles last season.
So what you're saying is OEL
he's run into injury troubles this year too.
Yes.
I think where the improved defense core has helped them most is actually generating more offense, because the bottom 4, it was extremely low event. They didn't give up a lot defensively. The bigger problem was they were a complete black hole offensively. Just couldn't transition the puck. The Canucks couldn't generate any shots, any chances. I don't think it's the defensive environment that has improved dramatically, because it's been pretty steady since Rick Tocchet has taken over. And for that reason, yes, in general, the better your defensive environment is, the less taxing it is on your goaltender physically. But the point I'm trying to make is, I feel like the defensive environment hasn't been that bad at all over the last year or so.
That's fair.
It's been good, actually. And yet he still ran into injury troubles.
Okay, so this theory, not a good one. I had one last thing that I wanted to say. Tonight's a big night on the out-of-town scoreboard. For the Canucks, you've got the Calgary Flames playing, you've got the Minnesota Wild playing, and of course, you've got the St. Louis Blues playing. Now, unfortunately, it is the Blues taking on the Nashville Predators. It gets a little better. Flames host the Stars. Utah plays Tampa. Like, if Utah loses that game, their playoff hopes are done. They're basically already done. I think Money Puck has them at like 2.2% or something, but this is a nail in the coffin game for Utah. The Canucks need some help on the out-of-town scoreboard. I wrote about this over at Canucks Army. You can go read it, canucksarmy.com. And yeah, it's not great. Money Puck currently has the Canucks at 20.4%. So even with all the winning that they've done, it's still going to be really tough for them to pull it off. And even if they keep winning games, like, they need teams ahead of them to start losing some games. St. Louis is up to 61. Minnesota, something to watch, down to 84.8% after being 95, I think they were the other day when we talked about this. So it's going to be an interesting one. The good news is Minnesota plays
Washington. It's a tough game.
That is a tough game. So out-of-town scoreboard is going to mean a lot tonight.
Yeah, it's going to mean a lot most nights, right? Where there's just so many teams to watch, and for once in the NHL, I shouldn't say for once, but it's nice that some seasons there isn't much of a race in the playoffs, and yet now it's been more interesting than I thought it was going to be. I'll be honest, I think around the halfway point of the season, or maybe 30 games in, I was looking at, okay, there's pretty much that last wild card spot that's up for grabs, and at that point, I just assumed the Canucks were gonna run away with that pretty decisively, and yet their woes have kind of opened the West up to being really interesting down the stretch. And now with Minnesota hitting the skids a bit too, that becomes another storyline to track. And the East has been fun to watch. So I'm glad that we have high stakes games pretty much every night in the NHL, because you don't always get that every year.
Last one. Who do the Leafs want to face more in the first round? The Senators or the Lightning? And don't just immediately say the Senators. Really think about it. Who do the Leafs want to face more in the first round of the playoffs?
Senators.
No.
Why?
Don't. Because the Senators have absolutely nothing to lose, and they're going to steamroll the Leafs, and it's going to be memed forever.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. It could happen.
Everybody's expecting the Leafs to lose in the first round. If they lose to the Lightning, it's like, okay, well, it was the Tampa Bay Lightning. They have Jake Gensel. They loaded up all this stuff.
But it's still funny. If
of course, it's always funny.
The Ottawa outcome is even fun. It's way funnier.
Yes.
So I would love to see that.
Likewise.
But Tampa's a wagon, man.
They are.
So
yeah,
I'd rather take my chances with Ottawa, even though the chances for embarrassment for the Leafs are higher in that one too.
Yeah. We'll talk about the Leafs, I'm sure. Leafs conversation. We'll have it.
We're going to be Travis Green fans if...
Oh, yeah. For sure. I'm already Travis Green fan. I'm rooting for the Sens, man. More giant baby. That's what that means.
It's also going to be so wild to see how many Leafs fans invade the Sens building.
Oh, yeah.
Are the Sens going to be able to do anything to restrict Leafs fans? I think there are laws in Ontario or around... things you can and can't do.
Cheering against other hockey teams?
No, related to some markets in the US, it's you got to be in a specific region to purchase the tickets. But I think in Ontario, there are laws that sort of prevent how far you can go with that. So either way, that'll make Sens fans salty if Leafs fans invade. It'll just make the rivalry great.
Give me Battle of Ontario for the first round. That'd be awesome, because that would also mean you get Florida Tampa first round. That would be great hockey in the first round. Okay, we got to get out of here. Let's get to our Bet 365 bet of the day. I am taking the
it's the Mariners athletics game, right?
Thank you. I was actually looking at the NHL slate. Thanks, Jacob.
It's a 7:00 start. A lot of the opening day games are going on right now, but Mariners and A's play later. So.
I am taking Logan Gilbert to
over strikeouts, right?
Not over strikeouts. I'm jumping up to take Logan Gilbert to get 8 strikeouts. He's gonna have he's gonna win the Cy Young this year. He's gonna start it off tonight. You can get that at plus 130 odds. Logan Gilbert, 8 strikeouts against the Athletics. Book it. Just book it. 8 strikeouts for Logan Gilbert tonight. The Mariners starter. That was our bet of the day. Brought to you by Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat-trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use the code NATION to get in on the game. Again, that is code NATION. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. We'll wrap it up there. Canucks in action tomorrow. We'll be back to break it all down. For my co-host, Harman Dial, and Brady Kachuk, and our technical producer, Jacob Wazar. My name is Dave Wujali. Thanks so much for this episode of Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with